Hi guys, so simple video, bit of a sort of a blunt discussion and wake-up call, I guess, for a lot of people struggling with back issues. So if you want my honest opinion, what I think is the biggest issue that people struggle with has got nothing to do with the type or severity of their injury. It is entirely to do with their headspace and their attitude and the level of objectivity to the problem at hand. Because that's what we are, like back pain is, it's a problem that we have to sort of solve. So I like to say that, creating a pain-free back or fixing back pain is it's a simple problem to solve. It's not an easy problem. So what I mean by that, so simple just means that basically you have to do two things. One is you have to understand the mechanics of your injury and remove the aggravating postures and movements that are sensitizing your back to pain, which can be easily done with understanding your movement habits, paying attention to when the back feels bad versus when it feels good. You can do provocation tests, and that can all then be backed up with things like MRI scans. And again, the more that sort of evidence we get, the clearer idea we get mechanically as to what's going on. So you understand mechanically your injury and understand those movements and postures that are creating that mechanical damage and change those movement postures and habits, then you're not going to have back pain anymore. It's that simple. So when I do assessments with people and they've still got little twinges here and there, like, I don't know what's going on. It's like, well, I do know what's going on. You've still got aggravators somewhere you're not managing. It's pretty much black and white. If you've got back pain, you've got aggravators. So if you can remove those aggravators or do a better job of removing them, that's what's going to take that sensitivity out of the back. The other half of the job, is building what I like to call like a big enough bank balance for things you want to do. So things like the exercise that you choose to do, they build a couple of things. They build more bank accounts, so you've got more tolerance to your aggravators, but also I think a good program should help ingrain new movement strategies that will act as alternatives that are more back sparing. So for example, how you're going to squat or maybe do an RDL or do a deadlift in a way that isn't going to flare your back up and lets you move and pick things up and do things day to day in a way that's less kind of aggravating for your back. So if you do those two things well, so avoid your aggravators, basically learn to move better by doing choice exercises suited to your goals, that's going to cover your bases, and that's what's going to give you, if you adhere to those two lists, that's what's going to give you a pain-free back day to day and going forward. So the problem arises, but a lot of people, I don't know whether it's because they may have gone to see other people and there's this kind of attitude that you're always trying to look for a quick fix, like you go and see some magic voodoo person and they're going to just wave their hands around and all of a sudden like an off switch, your back's fixed and off you go and it's never a problem ever again. As far as I'm aware, that doesn't exist. Maybe in the future somebody may come up with an idea like that. But the reality is, and the stark reality is that your back, if it's sore, is only responding to how you're choosing to move it. So if it's sore, you're moving and using it in a bad way. And I say to most people, you haven't got a weak back, you've got an overused back. So you need to learn to move and sit and have postures that are more back sparing. And that's going to take that load off. And then the exercises you do basically going to work on, not the areas that you already feel that are sore, it's going to work on the areas that you don't feel, so things like in the core and your glutes, the things that tend to get a little bit lazy, it's got to bring those back up into strength so that your body's got more options as opposed to just using your back all of the time. So the issue is that some people, they don't quite get that, and I'm pretty honest when I give them. I just say this is how it is. It's going to take some hard work. We're going to avoid your aggravators and you've got to work on your weaknesses. Do those two things, you're going to have a pain-free back. And people don't they just kind of go straight over the head, they don't really take it on board. Usually, the biggest problem is the aggravators. They don't quite understand or they don't quite get the importance of being on top of their posture and changing those habits every single day and being aware of it. Especially in the first few weeks, you've got to be super aware of it to start identifying those times we kind of slump into a bad posture. It could be on the couch, it could be when you sleep in your bed and you kind of buckle to one side and don't realise, or it could be in the car, or it could just be how you bend and move and do things day to day is just draining that bank account. That's really important. I can't stress that that's probably the most important thing you need to do if you need a pain-free back. That's like non-negotiable. Like if you want a pain-free back, you have to identify your mechanical aggravators and you have to remove them and develop alternative ways to move and hold your posture that don't burn your back out and sensitize it all of the time. Next biggest problem that people get is just not taking the exercises seriously enough. So, I always preface stuff, because I use a lot of McGill's big 3, especially in the early stages. Why do I do that? Because they're the safest, most effective tools I've got for most people. They don't always work. Some people, their backs are so bad I can't even get them to do a McGill curl up, believe it or not, and I have to use other things to get them strong enough to do a McGill curl up. But McGill curl up, side bridge, bird dog, they're the most effective tools that I know of, and also generally the safest for most people. But definitely in terms of effectiveness, they really build a solid base. And I always preface to people, I say in the early stage of back rehab, the exercise program is like maths homework. It's boring, it's hard, but you have to really concentrate. And I see what a lot of people do is they just go, oh, they're boring, I don't want to do them. And if they do them, it's like half-hearted, don't really put much effort into it. You're going to get fuck all out of doing those exercises if that's your attitude. You've got to be like, I say to everyone, the people that do the best with them, they're generally either so scared that they're going to lose the ability to walk, or they're so pissed off because they've been to see 5 or 6 other people, they're like, right, I'm going to sort this out myself. They're generally the best people to train, because when I give them the exercise, they don't just like half commit to them, I did a couple here, did a couple there, meh. They just go bam, and they smash them out, and they get them absolutely perfect. And that's what you've got to do. Don't just do them and go through the motions, like nail them. Absolutely master every single rep of those big 3. If you do that, then you've got a solid foundation that you can build from, and you can add more exciting exercises on top. But if you haven't got that, it's dangerous to try and build stuff on top of a wonky foundation. You think of it like layers of a pyramid. If that bottom foundation is a bit wonky and not quite where it should be, everything's just going to fall down, or you just physically won't be able to build anything on top because there isn't enough sort of stability in that sort of foundational level to build from. So, with those exercises, yes, I know they're boring. Yes, I know they're hard. Yes, I know they suck. But if you master them, the world's your oyster in terms of where you want to take your back. And if you can maintain the ability to do those exercises well, doesn't necessarily mean you need to do them all the time once you've built a level. There's other ways that we can do that by the way we structure your program. But if you can maintain the ability to do 8 McGill curls solid, 8 level 2 side bridges solid, 8 level 2 bird dogs solid, your back's pretty solid for day to day, and then we can add stuff on top of that. And sometimes I find it hard to relate to people that kind of just, what they're doing the exercises, I did a couple, did some last week and just kind of fumbled around with them. I think for me, because when I had my back injury, there was 2 things. I was scared shitless that I was going to lose the ability to walk in my early 30s. And 2, I was so pissed off by wasting my time seeing people who were trying to be quick fix gurus that I was like, it's down to me. I've got to take responsibility. I've got to be accountable, and I've got to smash these exercises. And I learned the hard way for me that getting really good at those McGill Big 3 was the quickest route and the most effective route to me getting pain-free, and then getting back to the things that I want to do. And I also know that if I maintain my ability to do those 3 exercises well, it keeps me out of so much trouble. And if the rare cases I do have a little bit of a flare-up now and again, it doesn't happen very often. Usually like, long airplane rides will probably do it, or long journeys and bad car seats, things like that will probably set it off. If I do those 3 exercises in my first port of call, everything just looks back together and the back feels solid, like nothing happened. So again, I know they're boring, I know they suck, but you've got to do them, and you don't just kind of go through the motions. Like absolutely master every single rep. I can't stress that enough. So important. So in summary, take removing your aggravators seriously, because that's probably the first thing you really need to do and understand the mechanics of your injury. So if you're working with a coach, they should be able to let you know exactly what those mechanics are very easily. And again, things like provocation testing is very good at zeroing on exactly what your pain triggers are, so it's worth doing that. And number 2, just do the exercises, like master them. I can't stress the benefits you'll get from mastering those 3 exercises, so important. So do a better job of removing your aggravators, absolutely master those McGill Big 3, and that's going to build you, that's the best chance of getting a pain-free foundation and adding the stuff that you want to do on top. If you don't do those two things, you're just going to forever be in that cycle of good versus bad days and never really get anywhere. So take those 2 stages seriously, do your very best with it and really prioritize it, and you're going to get the results. And in summary, what I would say is with back pain, whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot build a pain-free back, you're right.